Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, the Force is with the readers, and we return to 1981 for a weird pair of issues in the Marvel series. I'm your host, Nathan P. Butler, and from July to August of 1981, we got a couple of Marvel issues written by Chris Claremont, with art by Carmine Infantino back again, albeit only briefly, and Walt Simonson, the new main artist for the series. The issues in question are issue number 53, again, with not much on the cover, although it's kind of cool that you could win a Columbia 10-speed Formula 10 racer. Woohoo! You could win a bike! You would never get kids to buy a comic book with winning a bike these days. It would have to be something electronic, wouldn't it? Something they could sit on their butt and do the whole obesity thing. But I digress. The second was issue number 54 here that says, "In the name of Darth Vader, destroy them!" It's a storyline entitled The Last Gift from Alderaan and Starfire Rising. The first issue being The Last Gift from Alderaan, the second being Starfire Rising. But it is a weird one. It really is very different than what we see in most of the rest of the Marvel Star Wars run, and Star Wars in general. You find this these days in the pages of Star Wars Omnibus A Long Time Ago, Volume 3. It is so strange. Basically what you get here is, now let me make sure I get my terminology right, is that Leia is sort of reminiscing about the fact that the Empire destroyed her home planet. She is on a rebel mission, and the ship she's on winds up catching fire. There's an explosion, it's catching fire. The only choice she has to save the rest of the crew from being stopped by Imperials after they're in this minefield is to jettison herself. And she crashes down on the world below, and the rest of the rebels are able to get off eventually to safety rather than being captured by Imperials or destroyed in the minefield. Leia crashes down on this planet, though, and then it completely changes themes. And we go from the shot of her crashing down on the planet here to instead what looks like a reunion of cast-offs from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, or maybe, Conan the Barbarian. I mean, it's really an odd-looking type of atmosphere that we get. We have these native cultures that have been united by a man by the name of Aaron. Aaron Peacebringer. And they are fighting against these sort of rebel outcasts. There's them, they're human, sort of pink-skinned-ish humans, like they all have sunburn, basically. And this alien group of people led by Carol, who is an ally of his. And together they are bringing peace for the first time to this planet. But there are some who are outcasts who are still fighting against them. And while they're fighting the outcasts, it turns out the outcasts have captured Leia, or are trying to capture Leia. And in the fight that follows, they wind up saving Leia. This is kind of an unusual thing in that they save her, but they can't communicate with her. It takes a while for her, gosh, what does she call it here? She calls it a translatacomp. Her translatacomp, wherever that is, implanted, who knows, her translatacomp can't decipher their language yet. It takes her a while to learn the language for it to see enough bits and pieces of it to be able to accurately communicate. We are later introduced to Aaron's wife, Alyssand, who repeatedly throughout this story is sometimes spelled with an I, sometimes with a Y. Lots of spelling issues, again, in this particular two-part story of the series. It seems like they just could not get the spelling right, which is one of the things that got me complaining about Dark Horse when they couldn't do that right for a while back in about 2002 or so. But at this point, yeah, I guess you can sort of see it because there's no way to do a computerized spell check on the scripts when they're writing them, but still, a little bit unprofessional looking. So if I say, they go back to their capital, which is Illyricum. It's I-L-L-Y with some funky dots over it, R-I-A-Q-U-M. Sometimes with the Q-U-M also having the little dots over the U, sometimes not. Again, they can't even spell it right with their own little notations with the letters here, at least not consistently. When we meet his wife here, right, this thing just screaming He-Man, it's actually a reference to John Carter of Mars on purpose, which is an inspiration for Star Wars and other science fiction by Edgar Rice Burroughs, recently released as a film, John Carter, which I actually liked. I got the 3D version of that. It's a pretty good film, though some people hated the thing. Suffice to say, though, as he is there with his wife, he is falling for Leia, and he's sort of conflicted. He loves his wife, but he's also infatuated with Leia, and will be until the end of the second storyline, where he kind of realizes that he's wrong in his particular thinking. Leia is saddened. She's in her own emotional turmoil because it doesn't seem like the rebels are coming to save her, to rescue her. She is sort of living a normal life there as part of the nobility, which is sort of what she would have lived on Alderaan, only Alderaan was destroyed. So it makes for a comfortable yet disconcerting situation for her, only to realize by the end of it that there's this allied city that has been destroyed by apparently a nuclear device. They're wondering where it comes from, and sure enough, the Empire is in play. Another of the nobles, Delois, D-E-L-O-I-S, Delois, he is supposed to be an ally of Aaron's, but he is working with the Empire to overcome Aaron as his new government, take over the planet with him as the figurehead for the Empire. We learn this as we get to the end of the the first issue of this, where stormtroopers capture Aaron and Leia, and they are taken before Scar, the Imperial warlord who's been sent to take over the planet. And Scar, while here his species is not named, was later retconned to be the same race as General Grievous, which is a Kaleesh. Now, fortunately, the rebels did hear about what was going on. It's just taken them a while to get there, and as Leia breaks free, her and Aaron break free. They're fighting against the enemies. They're jumping from airship to airship, very much like the battles you see early on in John Carter, going between the airships back and forth. The rebels finally arrive at Shiva 4, and it's Lando, Chewbacca, Luke. They are there to save Leia and wind up helping to turn the tide against the Imperials, defeating Scar. This allows Leia to finally leave, but she's not really reluctant to do so. She's just sad to do so, because it seems as though, she'll never be able to settle down to a real, normal life if the rebellion keeps needing her services, if the civil war just keeps going on and on against the Empire. Someday, something's got to give. Luke, at this point, is somewhat, not jealous, I guess, but he's worried about whether or not Leia will ever see him as something more than a friend. Again, still that whole we don't know their brother and sister yet angle going on in this story, just like a lot of the stories set prior to the release of Return of the Jedi in theaters. What's interesting is that it seems like the end of this story is kind of tacked on. Like, they didn't really need it. Everything is great. Aaron's government is saved. There's a big gala. Everybody's happy. He's back with his wife. Everything is A-okay. Our heroes try to leave, but the Imperials are there, and they wind up having to fight the Imperials and essentially force an Imperial Star Destroyer into a black hole in order for them to escape. They slingshot around it. The Imperials can't match the maneuver, and they go into the black hole. So they do escape the Empire. They do get a chance to battle the Empire there at the end, but it seems like it's sort of a tacked-on, weird ending to go with what felt like a story that could have just ended with the happy ending on Shiva 4. The question, of course, that this brings up, aside from, wow, why is this story so weird, which is basically answered by the whole John Carter connection here, is this an essential read? And of course, absolutely not. There's nothing in this story that's an essential read to understand anything else in the broader continuity. And frankly, you could skip this in the Marvel series and not think about it again ever and still be okay. Not only is it a weird setting, it is a standalone story that doesn't really give any ripples beyond its original tale. So, with that, we'll wrap up this rather odd story for this episode of From the Star Wars Library. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the readers.